always so glad that you make this venue available to us. Wonderful. Yeah, go ahead and be seated. We have a few things to hit tonight for our guest speaker. Let's bow and pray. Heavenly Father, we're here as your children. We're here humbly. How arrogant of us to think we could do anything to provoke change or move mountains without your hand guiding. They labor in vain who do not wait upon the Lord. If the house is not built with your hands, what good is it? We are here to not only acknowledge your name and your power and your strength, but to lay before you our agenda, say you change it. It is at your feet. We are at your feet. Thank you so much for the opportunity to meet with other people of strong constitution who want to do wonderful things for this country to get it back to your roots. We give you this time. In your name we pray. Amen. If you will, stand with me, face the flag in the back. Place your hand over your heart. And just like we did in elementary, middle school, repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. You may be seated. You all can read. We have a vision and a mission statement, both of which strike at the heart of what we're about. I'll just read the vision statement. It's beautiful. To promote individual liberty, family values, and the U.S. Constitution by active participation in the political process. That's what it's all about. Think about the generations. We're, 13, 14 generations into America as a country by now? Think of the lives that have been, the blood that's been shed. We need to unite as a country. It must be, judgment must begin at the house of God, so to speak. We need to all be on the same page. This is a great organization to do that within. So please be generous. Okay? I'm going to turn this over to Bob Retch now for the next slides.
I think so. Excellent, Dan. Okay, before I get into my spiel about election integrity, I wanted to remind you that we all need to stop using our credit cards and start using cash. According to Catherine Austin Fitz, she's reporting that right now in the United States, when you consider all transactions, only 19.5% of the transactions are cash. Everything else is digital. And she claims that, and I believe this, she claims that if that number drops down to 14 or 15%, they're going to cut off all cash, pull it back, and then make everybody go digital like they do in the communist China. How's that?
Right at it. No, go right at it. Good.
Okay, and so, communist China, where was I? Okay, so we don't want to do that. It's very easy. My wife and I, about 6 months ago, switched and got rid of our credit cards, the majority of them. And what we do is we put a little cash envelope on the counter, and every time one of us goes to the grocery store, we open up the envelope and pull out cash. It's so simple. And the other added advantage is that it makes you more conscious of how much you're spending. And with the credit cards, it's seamless. Then you just go pay and then pay the bill. So it's better for you, and it's also going to be better for our country. So try to go back to cash. Next one slide, please. Okay. George Berry, some time ago, gave a little spiel one time on election integrity, and it was met with a very welcoming reception. So I partnered with him and started creating slides. And the presentations that he gave has now snowballed. We've so far in northern Alabama, and we've given, I think, 14 presentations on election integrity. And this is just a snippet of the 45-minute presentation we've been giving. And I want to give thanks. Susan Shipman is not here. Susan Shipman raised her hand and said, hey, I'd like to help you guys out. She went down on business to Southern California and Coffee County, gave a presentation down there to South Alabama Liberty Group, and they were very excited. They have now picking up the banner, and they wanted to take the presentation and spread the word throughout Southern Southern Alabama. Sorry, I'm from California. Anyway, message here is that bottom line is our election process and our voting is selected and rigged. Remember those two words, selected and rigged. And this is presentation number 1, and I'll just give you a few slides and give you a snippet of what we talk about in the bigger picture. Next one, please. Raise of hands, how many have seen this? I gave it here once before. 1, 2, 3, all right, about half of you. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. Being an engineer, I wanted to find out, big picture on one piece of paper, what is the election process we go? When we go vote, what happens to that vote, and what's all of the steps that goes through before we actually find out at night, 10 or 11 o'clock at night on TV, who the winner is. So I was able to do some research and found out if you start in the upper left-hand corner, you start off with the registration forms. Those are pretty much corrupted. They are pumped and dumped, and they use this for voter line of credit, and that's how they use the manipulations of the machines with mathematical equations to predict what the outcome is going to be. But anyway, you go to the precinct, you show your ID, they give you a paper ballot and a pencil or paper, and you mark it. Then you walk over to a tabulator. It's a DS200. It's manufactured by ES&S. There are 2 major companies in the U.S., ES&S and Dominion. They virtually have the nation tied up. There's a few other ones like Diebold, but it's only onesie-twosies in California. You place your ballot in the machine. The machine converts your vote to ones and zeros digitally, and that machine generates 3 products. 1, the paper ballot, which gets locked up in Madison County. Those ballots go to the county jail. It's locked up in a cell, never to be seen again, except for 2 occasions. 1, it's a contested election, or 2, you get a court order and you say, I want to see those ballots and count them myself. The other 2 products are a thumb drive and a paper printout. At the end of the, I think 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock the polls close. They shut down the machines, they download the data onto some tapes, they pull out the thumb drive, they verify the data, make some signatures, put it in an envelope, and then transport it to the county courthouse in Madison, or in Huntsville. There they take that thumb drive and they put it into a Madison County laptop. It's a Dell laptop, remember Dell. And they upload that information from the thumb drive and they collect the different precincts when they report. And when they get done with that, then they have enough, like a batch 10, 15 or whatever, they will take another thumb drive and put it into that laptop, download that batch that they just received, pull it out and put it into a Secretary of State's laptop, and you see that on the left-hand side there. That laptop is loaded with some software from Cital and Clarity. You will not be able to find very much information about this on the internet. I did some research and scratched up some stuff, found out that it was a company created in Barcelona, Spain. They went bankrupt, and they were later purchased by Paragon Group. And Paragon Group has offices in Russia, they have offices in the European Union, they have offices in 5 other countries. This software and this company is worldwide, so it's very easily hacked from other countries through their servers. Anyway, once that information is on the laptop, Clarity and Cital process the data, and they transmit that information to 2 areas. They go to the Secretary of State, and then it gets transmitted to a company in New Jersey called Edison. Edison has the sole rights to process every precinct, every county, every state in the United States. Everything funnels through that company. And then from there, that information is fed to all the news organizations, AP, CNN, MSNBC, the papers, anywhere you go to find out who won, it all comes through the company called Edison. Now you say, okay, what's wrong with this picture, Bob? Go ahead, next slide, please. All of these locations there in fuchsia there list the different ways that these machines can be hacked. You have, for instance, the tabulator. They can be accessed through the internet, not through the internet on RJ45 cable. They can be accessed through Wi-Fi. They have a Wi-Fi card in them. They have source code in there that nobody can see except the ES&S. If you want to go look at the source code and see how they program that information on the machine, that's verboten. Can't see it. All of the components on those computers on the screen there, they're all supplied by Communist China. They are none of them are made in the United States. Let me see here. The other thumb drive, after they're used 5 or 7 days later, they go back to ES&S in Nebraska, and all the information on those thumb drives are wiped clean, so you don't know what was on it. It's gone. And then also, your vote is locked up in the jailhouse, you can't see it. So there's a total of 14 opportunities for this thing to be hacked. Next slide. My problem is that there is a curtain placed over this. You walk in, you register to vote, they give you a paper ballot, it gets inserted into a machine, and that's the last time you see that. It gets converted to ones and zeros, it goes through several machinations until it gets spit out later on at night down below. You don't know, I don't know, nobody knows what goes on behind the curtain. Next slide. I call it a curtain of secrecy, and we're not allowed to see anything, but we are expected to trust everybody that everything is okay and there's no cheating there. Next slide. Now, this is a simplified process flow diagram of what I just showed you. And every place you see that hacker behind there are windows of opportunity for a hacker to come in to those different locations all along the process. And how do they get there? Next slide. They're all connected to the internet. You know that people can get in there and hack it. There are hackers all over the world that can access this stuff. One more. And I don't want to bore you with all of the details here, but there's a bunch of, I'll call them avenues to get in, where you can manipulate the thumb drive. In the right-hand side here, under the Madison laptop, they can institute fractional voting. Does anybody know what fractional voting is? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, great. Fractional voting is a software code that they very easily load into a machine. Let's say I go in and I vote for President Trump. My one vote goes into the machine. The software converts my one vote for Trump to 20% for Trump and 80% for Joe Biden. And this is done over and over and over again throughout the country. That's what's called fractional voting, and that's how people get more votes than they actually deserve. The other thing I want to point out here, besides the proprietary data, if you look at the Madison County laptop and you look at the tabulators there, there's a thing called an iDRAC. It is a independent Dell, I can't remember now. You remember what it is?
Network.
It's an independent.
Network.
Basically what it is an additional CPU that sits on your motherboard. Older computers had one CPU that sat on their motherboard, but the newer computers in the last 5 to 7 years have an additional CPU, a controller called an iDRAC, and it was developed by Dell Corporation. And that CPU, unlike the main CPU, when you shut down your computer, that CPU is never turned off. It's always running. It goes and goes and goes. If you don't believe me, shut down your computer one time, disconnect the power cord, let it sit there for 2 or 3 weeks, and you'll see your battery will drain because that CPU is drawing power. It is through this iDRAC processor that anybody can come into your computer through your wireless card. It can come in through your internet service provider. It can wake up your computer when you're asleep and it's shut down. They can go in and they can manipulate data. They can add software. They can take software away. They can manipulate all kinds of data. This is how they access many of the computers in the system behind the curtain. So it's not safe. Next one. All right, solution. I tell you a little bit. There's much more information about the problems there. I go into a lot of detail, and George does too. But I wanted to come also with a solution. And the solution, the only one that we have, is hand count paper ballots. We have to get rid of the machines and go back to paper ballots. Now, a lot of people are going to throw up their hand. Oh my God, it's like going back to the Stone Age. It's going to take us forever to do it. It's going to cost so much money. All of those rumors are false. And in the full presentation, I show you the details of this, and I've worked out some numbers. So next slide, please. Let me give you some examples. In France, they have 48.7 million registered voters. Germany has 60.4. Netherlands, 13.2. They all use paper ballots. And when did they change paper ballots? In the year 2017, almost instantly, after the Trump-Hillary Clinton election. That was, if you paid attention, that was probably the first time that they had widespread and visible cheating. The European countries got wise to this and said, we don't want anything to do with voting machines, and they got rid of our voting machines within a couple months in those countries. If you look at Alabama, we have 3.7 million people. Why in the hell can't we count 3.7 million votes when those three countries, within 1 hour to 2 hours after the polls close at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, they have the winners? How can they do that with 48 million people and we have 3.7? It's a no-brainer to me. Next one. Last slide, I'll leave you with a couple of thoughts here, is that if you're looking for a white knight to come in, and hopefully if there is a fair election and they win, a Trump or a Kennedy or whoever you want to win, that white knight is not going to change this process.
That's right.
We are the ones that have to do that. We are in a do or die battle. If we don't get control of our votes by 2024, we're done. We become Venezuela, and we become a socialist country, and we lose complete control of who we get elected. You say, okay, well, if you can't rely on Trump or Kennedy, I would encourage you to look at the person on the left and then look at the person on your right. And when you go home today, look at the person in the mirror. Those are the faces that are going to make this change. This has to come from the ground and work its way up. We can't depend on our state representatives, our governor. We can't certainly depend on the president or anybody else in Washington, and especially if you pay attention to the news lately. Last thing is, Joseph Stalin said that those who count the vote decide nothing. Those who vote decide nothing. Those who count the vote decide everything. We don't want to become a communist country. Next slide. Okay, I'm going to hand this over to Rebecca, and she's going to give us some news updates.
Okay, guys, thank you for being here. I know it's football and Alabama season, and, you know, we've got to put our priorities where they belong, kind of like sometimes if we would cheer as hard for Jesus as we cheer for our football teams, you know, things would be a lot different. So I wanted to give you an update about PUP. How many of you were able to attend? What'd you think? Honest opinion. Awesome. Okay, so we had some amazing speakers. I think we surprised a lot of people with the caliber of speakers that we had there. They shared great information. I don't think we had any repeats. It was just like drinking from a fire hose of truth. And sometimes that's hard. It's a lot to digest, but we had great reviews, people going out the door saying it exceeded their expectations. So that's always great to hear. For those who volunteered, we thank you. If you're watching this from Birmingham, you volunteered, or for those that are watching this later, thank you. For those who donated, we also, this was advertised as a fundraiser, but it was more of an educational event. So don't think Focus on America got rich on this. We're still in the hole, but we did a great job of organizing and presenting, and we had some amazing speakers. There were several states who reached out because of that event and said, I'd like to start a Focus on America. I would like to work with you on this. We had an influx of people who were wanting to start a Focus on America chapter as well. So we're still working on getting back to those. The videos of the individual speakers and as an entirety will be available for purchase this upcoming week. They're ready. So if you would like to purchase an individual speaker, if you would like to purchase the event, we're going to give a deep discount to those who attended. So you'll have access to that. Maybe you missed something. Maybe you just want to have someone cheer you on and hear all the clapping and the great information. We'll have that, and many who wanted to attend but couldn't, they'll be able to purchase that information, but those ticket holders will be able to get a super deep discount. We'll be sending that out in an email very soon, but the videos are ready. I do want to give a super shout out to Jace Carnes. He did an incredible job of putting all those together. He's worked diligently to do that, and he still hasn't been paid, so yay, Jace. Okay, next one. Okay, so I want to talk to you a little bit about priorities, and Bob touched on this, but I want to see if you guys notice anything. Did you notice how we are going to start using some two-letter phrases? Okay, so we've got selected and rigged. Selected and rigged, right? Selected and rigged. So if somebody starts talking to you about election integrity, I want you to remember, repetition deepens the impression. Repetition is the mother of retention. So what did we hear the past 3 years?
Safe and effective.
Safe and effective. Safe and effective. Oh, should I give this to my child? It's safe and effective. Can pregnant women take this? Safe and effective. Every ad, that you heard. By the way, Alabama Department of Public Health spent about $16 million this past year on advertising, safe and effective. So our new words are going to be selected and rigged, dangerous and deadly. So we're going to go, okay? So you got it? Selected and rigged are going to be simplified, selected and rigged. Instead of safe and effective, we're going to use dangerous and deadly. Dangerous and deadly, because repetition deepens the impression. Repetition is the mother of retention. So you can't give people too much information. You can slowly work them into it the way deadly and dangerous and deadly, dangerous and deadly. Selected and rigged, selected and rigged. So when you see these come up lately, there's a reason for that. We just didn't suddenly go, woo, let's do this. There is a reason behind it, and that's the reasoning behind it. We did have someone who recently completed their Masters of Public Health during the COVID crisis. And they told me, said, Rebecca, you might want to consider changing your wording on some things so that you can reach more people, because as I was being trained, I would say, well, what about this? And they would say, all you have to tell them is it's safe and effective. Well, what if they want to know that it's safe and effective? You repeat it over and over and over. So just if we have that knowledge, it makes it easier for us to communicate. So our priorities for 2023 are going to continue to be election integrity, medical freedom, preparing candidates, and putting elected officials on notice. So you're going to say, well, the election's a long time away, we don't know. No, our goal is to put them in a pressure cooker and watch their head explode. And we're going to do that because we are the victors, we are the head, we are not the tail, and that is biblical. And we are not going to back down. It only takes how many? 2%?
40% total.
40% total, but there are only 2% actively fighting in that war. So, for the Revolutionary War, we were much more than the 2%. God is on our side as long as we're truthful, we present ourselves, and we give Him the honor and the glory. We're not going to lose. So, even though sometimes it feels like it, but we can't be discouraged. We're going to 2024, election integrity, with a push for changes that will need patriots to unite and push. will be our primary focus. Without volunteers, we may not work as many bills this year. Last year, I spent tons of hours. I had like 9 to 12 different bills going on. That's not counting Tennessee. So we've got to have help to be able to continue to do that. We are going to be working on medical freedoms, cash is king, education, human trafficking, exposing corruption within the state, and turning up the heat on the pressure cooker. In order to do that, we're going to need volunteers for research, FOIA requests, calls, emails, and other tasks. For those of you who know much about strategy or war, how do you attack your enemy? It's much better if you hit them from every side. People who get arrogant and they're hit from every side, they get sloppy. And when they get sloppy, they start making mistakes. It's our job to be on the lookout. And I don't know about you, but I'm on the lookout. And if they want to hunt me down, more power to them. I'll be looking right back at them. So we're going to need volunteers. If you're willing to volunteer, then you can go to our website, sign up to be a volunteer. We're going to need, you don't have to be somewhere to do that. You can send out FOIA requests. You can send out, you can make phone calls. You can do research. You can do all those things from your computer. It's not like just give up a little bit of time on the internet and help us help each other. That would be an excellent way to get involved and do that. That's not going to cost you a lot of time, and I bet most of us are spending that time on the internet anyway. The other thing is that we're going to need some hidden cameras. They're about $500 each. If anybody would like to sponsor a couple of those for us to share around their membership, that would be great, because as we get some information, we need to be able to document it. So as we're documenting it, if you'd be interested in sponsoring one of those cameras or a part of one of those cameras or one of those systems for our group all across the state, we would gladly accept your donation. You can make a donation online. You can give it to Sarah Ann. She's our treasurer. We accept crypto, gold, silver, chicken, eggs, we will barter whatever you need to get done, but we do need your help. Next slide. Before we go on to our wonderful speaker, does anyone have any questions about upcoming events, what we've done, the event that we had? Okay, so we have am I supposed to do this?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a wonderful speaker that David has already mentioned. So Miss Bauer was one of 6 children, born in Vietnam, narrowly escaped the communist takeover. Her family didn't have enough money for all to flee, so at the age of 12, she left her family and country under the cover of darkness on a riverboat headed for Australia through the pirate-infested South China Sea. Her book, The Ground Kisser, which is available here today, and I'm sure she'll tell those of you in Birmingham and those who are watching this later where you'll be able to get that. It details her harrowing experience. We're so grateful and thankful for her presence here today and for her allowing us to be able to record and for sharing her story. Please welcome Thanh Boyer.
Well, hey, y'all. You didn't expect that southern accent coming out of somebody like me, right? I am from South Vietnam after all. My name is Thanh Boyer, and I also go by another name, The Ground Kisser. And thank you for having me here today. It is an honor and a privilege to share my story to all of you. So, in all of human history, there's an example of a noble idea that stands above all the rest. It is this country, the United States of America. You know, when people protest for their rights in places like Lebanon and China. They are keeping the fire that was sparked here in Philadelphia long ago. The reason for people to even defend, want to defend their freedom is because, and even think that it is possible to defend their freedom, is because of this country. This is the birthplace. The hope came from here. So, there's many great places to live in the world, of course, in my opinion, but the reason they exist at all because of the movement that started here in Philadelphia. We have a gift for the world, not to be compared with the gospel. It still is the best hope for mankind. But in this world that we live in, liberty is the yearning of every heart, and this is the birthplace. So that's why when communism took over my country of Vietnam, we decided to escape. We know that the Americans were not the bad guy that we had been told. America is actually a place that we yearn to be. But that was too far-fetched to even think about coming to America. So we dreamed of going to Australia instead. So there's this crazy story of how I came to America. Over the years, I have shared my story with neighbors and friends, and they would say, well, you need to write a book, you need to write a book. And so I teamed up with a friend, Lisa Smith, and she and I put together our book, The Ground Kisser. And Lisa is English was not my first language, and so I've always struggled how to even begin to write a book, put together a book. So Lisa is an exceptional, amazing writer, and we worked together for about a year and a half and put our book together. And I have many reasons to write my book. I believe that God has a plan for my life. Before I even knew Him, He has a plan for my life. And I realized the price of freedom. And I realized that the Vietnam veterans, who are my heroes, didn't get the thank you that they so deserved when they came home. And this book is not really about me, but it's about how precious my adopted country is and how it is a good force in the world. And it's about thanking those who fought for my freedom. So the name of The Ground Kisser is it's an unusual name. Do y'all remember of Mr. Barry Farber in around the 90s? He had a radio show, host out of New York, and I think it was carried on, is it WVNN? Yeah, WVNN. My husband listened to him religiously. And one of the segments Mr. Farber talks about and immigrants who come into this country, and when they got here, they got on the ground, kissed the ground, because they were so thankful to be here. And so my husband decided he wanted to call Mr. Farber and tell him about my story. So he somehow got through, and Mr. Farber said, well, your wife is a ground kisser. And I knew that someday if I was to write my story down, it would be called The Ground Kisser, because that's really how I feel about this country. your ancestor also was a ground kisser. They came to America to try to find a better life for themselves and their family. And y'all are the products of their sacrifice and their bravery. So I was born in Vietnam during the invasions of Communist North. I was 8 years old when the war was over. A little history of my family. I lived on the Mekong River, only 6 miles from the Cambodian border, in the Mekong Delta of Vietnam. My paternal great-grandfather started many businesses in Vietnam, and our whole family worked in his business. And to name just a couple businesses, we had we bought silk and buy and sell silk. We had a bakery. We had a Fanta bottling company. We were a very wealthy family. Like I said, the whole family worked in my grandfather's business. We ran a very successful business there. So when the invasion happened and the South lost the war in 1975, the False Ion came. Overnight, at a stroke of a pen, the communists nationalized all our businesses, our banks. They were brutal. They were very brutal. You know, their agenda is about equality. That was their propaganda during the war, is to make everyone equal. You know, while it might sound good, it doesn't work. The result is that what happened was that the rich become poorer, and the poor stay in poverty, and the one that's got rich is the government. Sound familiar? They froze our bank accounts. They closed down all our businesses. They allowed us to keep our bakery, and even with that, they tells us what to produce, and even at what prices for the items. Life in Vietnam became increasingly difficult. We even had a family, a communist family, moved in and lived with us so they can watch our every move. I remember as a little kid standing in line for rice and fish sauce. I remember going to buy one aspirin instead of a bottle of aspirin. So Ronald Reagan once said this: the top 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I am from the government and I am here to help. Trust me, it sounds even worse in Vietnamese. In that first few weeks, the arrogant communists decided to teach us how to clean our dirty capitalist city with stolen brooms, and they wear stolen dust masks that they had looted from a warehouse, which probably was owned by my grandfather. They made us stand there and watch them march down the street with the stolen brooms. These malnourished, tough guys in their tattered uniforms. As they got closer, we realized that the dust mask that they were wearing was actually feminine napkins. You know, the kind with the straps that they wrap around their heads. And even as a kid, I thought, my God, these idiots are in charge now. You know, they work really hard to appear that they are somehow smart and they really are thieves and hypocrites. Nowadays, I believe they call that virtual signaling. You know, in the Bible, in the book of Ecclesiastes, it says that there's nothing new under the sun. They were the government, and they were there to help, and they want to help us so badly that if we refused, we can be jailed and killed. So they soon mounted these huge loudspeakers all over the town, and every morning we would wake up at they would wake us up at 6 a.m. with a speech of how smart they are and how great things are. There was no food, food was scarce, there was no supplies, no commerce, no joy. Nowadays they call that gaslighting. We call it a BS, but only to ourselves, because one complaint could get you beaten or shipped off to re-education camp. Neighbors stopped trusting each other. One denouncement and you were done for. Gone, disappeared. We were losing hope. The thought police then would land you in re-education camp. The thought police now would get you canceled on social media. I wonder what would they do with more power. There's nothing new under the sun. You know, however, at the same time this is going on, with the party announcement in the morning, there was this broadcast on AM radio. It started off with this strange tune on the flute that we later learned was Yankee Doodle Dandy. The Voice of America told the news in Vietnamese, English, and French. It was just news, and we trusted it. Some houses like mine turned the radio on every morning to listen, to drown out the nonsense that we're hearing on the speakers. It was very low volume when I was a kid, but by the way, in 1990, when I went back, at 6 a.m., every house turned Voice of America on at 6 a.m. as loud as they can get it, to drown out all the loudspeaker, because the people had discovered even that they cannot arrest everyone. So it was a full revolt in 1990. As bad as the communists of Vietnam was, the communists of Cambodia was even more evil. Because we live only 6 miles from the Cambodian border, the Cambodian communists hated the Vietnamese communists. Every time we thought about, you know, it couldn't get worse, it did. The Cambodian went to war with Vietnam, and they started killing the people in our town at night. And they start shelling our town, and they start killing fishermen in the river. And I remember one night watching across the river, the Cambodian communists had raided a village. They were burning every home, and you can hear screaming and gunfire and family looking for each other, loud and clear, and watch it and just really They were so brutal. The Cambodian communists would snatch babies out of mothers' hands and arms, and they would sling the babies on the wall. There's still remnants of that in Vietnam right now. As a little kid, those kind of things kind of stand, and you can't forget what you've seen and the brutality of Cambodian and Vietnam communism. Things were bad, but we thought they turned into something that we couldn't even ever imagine. So if you found a body in the river, you would fish the body out and you would bury it. But when you see hundreds of them every day, you would push the body out with a long pole to the channel. The Khmer Rouge estimated they killed 20% of their population. That's 4 million of people in 4 years, and most of that was dumped in the Mekong River that goes by my house every single day. The smell, the bodies, the body parts, this will go on for days and weeks and months. It seemed that the whole world has gone mad. But we knew from the Voice of America that there's hope outside of Vietnam. So our family finally reached that breaking point. I had several aunts on the exodus start happening in Vietnam. I had several aunts and uncles that have signed up to leave Vietnam, and back then, at that time, you can sign and leave Vietnam. And basically, you pay your passage. We call it you pay your passage to leave Vietnam, but really, what it is just a bribery. You pay the official this way so that they can look. So you pay them to look this way so that you can escape Vietnam this way. So I had several aunts and uncles who had signed up to leave Vietnam. And so at the last minute, they told my parents that there are several empty spots on this riverboat that he and my mom and 6 children can take if we have enough money. But like I said, life was so difficult for us already. They didn't have enough money to pay for 8 people. They only had enough money to pay for 2. And so out of 6 children, they picked the oldest, which is me, and the next sister to leave Vietnam. Just think how difficult that would have been. Having to make that kind of decision as parents. Knowing very well that they might never see us again. But they had to make that difficult, agonizing decision. And they pretty much had to make this decision within hours. My parents was hoping that my sister and I would have a better life elsewhere. So 2 weeks after my 12th birthday, me and my 10-year-old sister, along with our aunt and uncle, boarded a riverboat of about 400 people, 400 refugees to leave Vietnam. And we were on our way to Australia. We have enough food, we have enough fuel to get us to Australia. So after several, I remember, the condition of the boat. The boat was very cramped. There was no room to even lay down. I remember my sister and I, to sleep, we would put our back against each other and fall asleep that way. I remember it was so cramped and so crowded, and the smell of the trip was something that I would never ever forget. The smell of mix of diesel fuel with urine and vomit, and but we were thankful that we were able to escape Vietnam. But at this time, if we ever get caught, my sister and I would have been, they probably would have thrown us in jail with my parents, because we didn't leave legally. We didn't sign up to leave. So several days at sea, our boat was robbed by pirates at the South China Sea. The pirates knew that the Vietnamese refugees has brought jewelry and gold with them so that they can use it to start their life elsewhere, you know. And so I remember my parents had sent some bracelets and earrings and necklaces with my sister and I, and as the pirates was robbing people, we stripped it off of our body and stuffed the jewelries in our mouths to hide it from the pirates. And as the pirates was robbing people, there was this black bar on the horizon, and everybody seeing this black horizon, a huge storm was brewing. So the pirates, usually after they rob you, they get rid of the evidence, and that they usually killed everyone. And the women, the children, the women and the girls, sometimes they would kidnap them and sell them to slavery. There's some horrible story of Vietnamese refugees that have to withstand raped and just brutal pirates from South China Sea that they had to anyway. The storm was coming, and I believe in my heart that this storm was the grace of God, because the pirates had decided they weren't going to kill us. They're going to let this storm capsize our boat and drown us. And if that didn't happen, they disabled our engine, threw our provision overboard. So if the storm didn't capsize us, that we would die of starvation, floating in the South China Sea. Because there's no engine for us to get to Australia. There were several nights and days in this storm. We really thought we were going to die. There was no way we were going to survive. And if we did survive, we probably are going to die of starvation. Like I said, I believe that this storm is the grace of God. So the storm actually carried us to Indonesia. And when we got to Indonesia, the Indonesians put us on this deserted island. There was one other Vietnam refugee boat there already. We were the second one there. There was nothing on this island. It was deserted. It's called Cuckoo Island, and we nicknamed it Fly Island because there's so many flies there. And every day more and more refugee boats from Vietnam arrived on this island. Like I said, there was no shelter. There was no clean water, so we drank water usually from dirty streams. There was no food. We're lucky we could get something from the sea, but we pretty much ate whatever we could find: bugs, barks, leaves, whatever. there were so many people who died of starvations. And then because we drank dirty water, a lot of people start dying of dysentery. And this will go on for months because no one knew that there were refugees on this island. And for some reason, the Indonesian did not let the international organization know that there were refugees on this island. So this went on for a month of trying to survive. There was many nights where we went to bed hungry. And I don't mean just hungry that I'm gonna go get something to eat. I'm talking about hungry, so hungry that it hurts hungry. So after several months, the international organization did come in when they found out there were thousands now of refugees on this island. So they came, and at this time, my parents didn't even know we had survived the sea. The organization came in and brought us medicine for our illnesses, and they brought us canned food. I remember how thankful for those canned food. I remember that's where I developed my love for Spam. You know, when there's no fresh meat, canned meat is the best thing ever. Anyway, so after 14 months on this island, we were sponsored by a family in Athens. And on July 18, 1980, we came through our first city in America that we came to was Seattle, and then from Seattle to Dallas, and Dallas to Huntsville. So July 18, 1980, we got to Huntsville, Alabama. And I tell you what, the American people are the most generous people on earth. We arrived to Athens with a furnished apartment with soft beds and carpet. I mean, we never had carpet. I've never had carpet under my feet. I remember a fridge full of food. And I don't know why this stand out. Well, I think I know why. But I remember seeing chicken in the fridge. And so thankful for the chicken that I didn't have to chase down and killed and plucked myself. Every single day, a different family arrived in our apartment to help us. Finding a job for my uncle and taking us to the health department or the grocery store. Or they would, I mean, every single day, they did this for over a year. They helped enroll us kids in school. And I tell you a funny story. Just trying to learn how to live in our new home in America. One day we were sitting around, and you know, like I said, we were trying to learn about everything about America. So we went to the refrigerator, went to the freezer, and took this thing out the freezer, and it looks like it's orange sherbet. And so we all got a spoon, and we want to taste this sherbet, American sherbet. And I remember how we all took a bite out of it, and we thought, oh my gosh, this is horrible. It was so strong. We thought, wow, American food, I don't know if we can get used to it. And so our sponsor came a few days later after that event. Oh, by the way, we end up eating it all because, you know, we didn't want to waste anything, so we all ate the whole orange sherbet. So a few days after that, our sponsor came over and she was teaching us how to make American breakfast. So she's making oatmeal and bacon and eggs. And she went into the freezer to look for the orange juice concentrate that we ate a few days ago. So yeah, that's how we discovered that it was orange juice concentrate and not orange sherbet. But anyway, I got to graduate from Athens High School, and I'm very proud of Athens community for the things that they did. You know, our family would not have been successful if it wasn't for the community of Athens, and we owe them a debt of gratitude that can never be repaid. As I grew up, like I said, I believe that God has a plan for my life, and how precious our military, especially the Vietnam veterans. They didn't get the welcome home or the thank you. And I remember walking up to a stranger, a Vietnam veteran, and thanking him for his service. And I remember watching him get so emotional with tears streaming down his face, and just by my mere thank you. I knew then that was my mission in life. That is why God had saved me. That is His purpose for my life. You know, ever since my book came out, I've got to speak to several Vietnam veterans organizations, and that has been a tremendous blessing for me to be able to thank them for what they tried to do in Vietnam for me and my family and the Vietnamese people. And actually, all proceeds from my book sale goes to Vietnam, to veterans organizations and several of the handicapped orphanages that my husband and I support in Vietnam. So I want to say that today a military service member are in the position of making a difference in the world, just like the Vietnam veterans. And you know how I know that that the veterans made a difference when the Vietnam veterans left Vietnam. We had no one to fight for us. We lost our freedom. The communists took off our freedom. You know, what we are doing now in the world made a difference. We fight back darkness and we fight back oppressive governments, whether it is communist or the radical Islam. The result is the same. Everyone deserves to be free. Why do we want to be free? We can be free physically or spiritually. The goal is freedom. You know, I don't know where you are in your faith, but for me, let me quote Galatians 5:1. It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm then and do not let yourself be burdened again by the yoke of slavery. We are created in God's image, and being free is ingrained in our DNA. Everyone wants to be free. You know, America isn't just a place, it is an ideal. Another refugee said this: you see, America is not just a place on the map. It isn't a physical location, it is an ideal, a concept. And if you are an American, you must understand the concept and you must accept this concept. And most importantly, you have to fight and defend this concept. This is about freedom and not the free stuff. That's why I am standing here proudly proclaiming that I am a citizen of the greatest country on earth. I'm actually a citizen of the greatest country in the history of the world. And you know, it's okay to be patriotic. It's okay to speak of American exceptionalism. It's what immigrants like me and your ancestor, that's why they want to come to this country. There are still immigrants today who risk their life to come here every day. I think that tells the whole story. That tell you how great this country is. You know, when I speak to the young people, I often tell them that if they find themselves ashamed of this country, go and travel the world. You don't even have to go to a third world country. You don't even have to go to a developing country. Go travel anywhere. And I think they will soon discover that they have won the lottery. You've already won the lottery if you were born here in America. That is something, when I speak to young folks, I want them to know how blessed it is to live in this country. And yeah, we're not perfect, but it is the best place to live. So all this talk in our culture right now about socialism, communism, just because it sounds good, it doesn't mean that it will work. I have seen it in action. It eventually ends in tyranny and destruction every single time. It is one of mankind's greatest ideas, but it never fails to fail. The difference between socialism and communism is the amount of power used to make you comply. Is it a fine or is it a gun to your head? Either way, it is about power. The greatest threat to communism and socialism is the reality. Look at Cuba, look at Venezuela. And by the way, Argentina right now need our prayer. On Sunday, I believe, this Sunday, they have an election, and one of the guys that run is a libertarian and a conservative, and he will be running in that elections, and he needs our prayer because I think Argentina is on the brink of turning from socialism to capitalism. So I think the election is really important for them on Sunday. So I think as Americans, we all believe in freedom. That maybe we can take a couple minutes and pray for them. You know, we must learn from those that have already lived under these oppressive system. As Americans, we must fight to preserve and defend liberty. I spoke to a lot of people who had lived under this blatant lie of socialism and communism, and they often said to me, if the United States of America falls into the trap of this blatant lie, there is no other place where people can run to. There will be no one that will come and rescue us. Think about that. Do we really want socialism or communism in this country? It never worked anywhere, and it will fail here too. You know, our system isn't flawless, but it is the best in the world. And our country isn't perfect, but it is the greatest place to live. How can I say that? Like I said, people are still risking their life to come here every day. America has given more to charity than any other country. America helps fight to free more oppressive states than anyone else. America is a place where most innovations start and something the world wants to emulate. We are all from many different backgrounds. We have different ideas, different cultures. Because of our ancestors, we may be called a melting pot, but I think that the result is a pretty good stew. At the end of the day, we are one proud American. And I want to say thank you for having me come here and share my story. And if y'all have any questions for me, I will try to answer them. If anyone have any question. You know why?
Tell that to your family.
One of the things that gets left out a lot is what happens to your family afterwards.
Oh, by the way, this is my husband, John. And if you read my book, you know that he is the hero of the story. Not me. He. My family. Well, my siblings and my parents and I was separated for 15 years. And when I left Vietnam, one of the thing that drive me to do better and to seize every opportunity was to get my family out of Vietnam, because I knew that they were having a hard time. So after 15 years of separation from my family, my husband and I sponsored my family. And so 2 weeks before our son came, I was pregnant with our son. So 2 weeks before our son was born, they came. They got to come to the U.S. So my parents, they were in their they came, and we lived in Athens, and they worked. Y'all remember Sweet Sue? Sweet Sue. They make these canned chicken dumplings and chicken. And, well, my parents went and worked at Sweet Sue, and they loved it. At their age, in their 50s, they couldn't believe that there's companies that would hire them to work. And all my siblings, but one, went to school at Calhoun and got their associate degree. And my husband challenged them, said that they're so strong in math. And by the way, I'm horrible in math. And y'all just met an Asian person that's not good in math. But my siblings are. And they went to Calhoun and got the 2-year degrees. And my husband challenged them and said, why not go further? And so all but one went to UAH after that and got their electrical engineering degree. And they all worked at the arsenal supporting our military. So they're all here. And it will be 30 years next March for them.
We do have the floor open for questions. Anyone in Birmingham also? No? If you do have a question, raise your hand. I'll come meet you with the mic. Yes, in the back. Here you go.
So the communist here's my question. So the communist takeover in Vietnam, was it, after the soldiers left, was it like gradual, something that nobody really paid attention to, or was it at times sudden?
It was sudden.
Okay, so after.
Right after the fall of Saigon, 75, they took over.
Okay, what about before that?
Before that is it was we had all the freedom that we want.
Okay.
While the U.S. military was there, they were protecting our freedom. And when the fall of Saigon came in 75, pretty much overnight they took over. I mean, I remember as a little kid waking up in the morning, there was soldier marching on the street, and mayhem on the street, mayhem in homes, all trying to hide our assets. It was a scary time, but for my family, my mom, who came from a poor family, and so she was very resourceful about being ready for anything, and so she had things hidden, that the communists couldn't get their hands on. But yeah, pretty much overnight they closed all our businesses, and our bank account was frozen, and they took our lands and some of the homes, extra homes that we have. Yeah, for the common good. Yeah.
Any other questions over here?
When did you first notice in America that
things were starting to go bad, like what was familiar to you in communist Vietnam?
Well, I mean, I honestly, the last few years is when my eyes started open about what's going on, and I think this last election, you know, when we don't have election integrity, I think that's a real danger of losing this country. And one of the things I know that's scary is the young people are being in higher education, like colleges, and now it filtered down to high school and middle school and even elementary. They somehow believe that the government should be bigger. And it sounds really good. Who doesn't want to help? Who doesn't want to have equality for everyone? But it doesn't work. It never worked anywhere. And I think when my book came out and I started doing more research, and also just little things start happening, it's kind of like, it's scary where we're going as a country.
We do have a couple more questions. I have one for you, Don. Rebecca mentioned earlier about how our government kept repeating safe and effective. Do you see some of the same warning signs in the propaganda that you experienced as you were young in America?
Well, I keep on hearing, they always say, well, we're doing this for the common good. And that, to me, those two words scary to me. I'm not sure, I've never really thought much about that, but I'm so grateful that there are groups of you out there that's help educate people like me, even, you know, that's to see these things that's going on in our country, and we're not aware because we're so busy running our daily lives that we don't even think about what our government is doing, what the power to be is doing. And I think that's one of the things I remember asking my dad, because he was a businessman, and we were so busy running our business, making money, you know. He said that he wished that he had paid more attention to the political things that are going on in Vietnam when he was there, and because he was so busy running his business that he kind of ignored it, and he never thought that something like communism, you know, can take over Vietnam. He never thought that day would that day would come. And a group like your focus on America and 5 Strong, you help us educate what's going on, and I think that's really good. And we all need to be more aware, of course.
Another question?
Hello. Yes. Good morning. Out of curiosity, I'm aware of, even through church, many programs that help adopt or sponsor children, but I'm curious if you know a name or if anyone is very aware of a good place where you could sponsor children in very similar situations than yours. Because I've known of adoption places, etc., but there's a difference from people just adopting a child and sponsoring or adopting a child in your situation, which is something that I think is it's not that it's greater help, but it definitely made a change. So
I don't think I know, but I have heard that there is an organization in Mobile that helped some of the Ukrainian family that fled Ukraine and came to the U.S. and sponsor them that way. But personally, I don't know. I'm sorry, but I'm sure that there that there are organizations out there that are doing that.
Other questions? We have one over here.
Hi, I just wanted to ask if you're aware of like what the landscape was in Vietnam for gun ownership and how that may, or lack of gun ownership, and how that would have allowed the communists to come in and take over.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't remember anybody in my family had guns. Even before the communists took over. I had an uncle that was in the Navy and he has a gun, but I don't know. I'm not aware that anybody in the family had guns.
To me, it's very special that you're here to share with us, because I went to Christian Mission Alliance College in New York, and I had two of my classmates who died in Vietnam as missionaries. And I wondered, what effect that you may have seen, or even worse situations for the Christians in Vietnam.
I know that Protestants are more unwelcome in Vietnam than the Catholic. And I don't know why that is, but I've been back to Vietnam several times. Because like I said, my husband and I help support some of the handicapped orphanages there. And I would visit them and see what their needs are. But I have met several Protestants in Vietnam that has underground churches. And I think Franklin Graham was allowed to preach in Vietnam sometime this year, which is, it was unbelievable. I saw some of the footages out of Franklin Graham page, social media page, which is, that to me speaks, maybe we're all hoping that the old communist party start dying off, and the new people, now that they have a taste of capitalism, that they eventually will overturn the old one that ran the country. But I think that the Vietnamese communists isn't as bad as the Chinese communists, because I think we already had a taste of what capitalism was, and then we lost it all, and now we more slowly, more manufacturers are opening up in Vietnam, and they getting that taste of capitalism, that taste of freedom again. So a lot of people in Vietnam, like my family, that are still there, hoping that the younger regime will be a lot better than the old one, and that and they, believe it or not, the Vietnamese communists hate the Chinese communists.
We'd like to give a good hand to Thanh Boyer for coming out today and making time. Thank you. She does have her book, The Ground Kisser, back there. We do want to promote the use of cash. I know I will be buying one with cash, but Thanh, do you also take card, if anyone?
I take Venmo.
Okay, Venmo, okay.
And can they buy it online?
Yes, can you buy it online?
You can purchase on Amazon, yes.
On Amazon as well. So back here with the booth, if you have any other further questions. Again, we'd like to welcome all of you who are new to Focus on America. Thank you so much for coming out. We know there are a lot of opportunities for things to do in North Alabama on a fall Saturday. Thank you for making the time to be here. I'd like to engage you online, focusonamerica.us, a great place to start. You can sign up for volunteerism. We always need more volunteers to do things. You can donate. You can check out the Rumble videos, and there's several resources there online. Become engaged. Become a member of this. And we're never going to push for donations, but this does take money. This does take money. We're a no-pressure organization, but if you feel so led, please feel free to give any tips or anything that you think is appropriate for our volunteer efforts, okay? Thank you so much for being here. Rebecca, you have next meeting, November 17th, yes. Christmas social, November the 30th. You want to say anything?
Thursday night.
So on Thursday night, where will it be?
We don't know that yet.
We don't
So
know that yet.
if people have input, we're happy to take it, but it's going to be no pressure. It's going to be one of those times to get together and encourage each other,
Yes.
celebrate the reason we're here, and find the positives.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. Sometimes when you go down this road and you see what the country's facing, it's easy to get discouraged, and we want to be encouraging each other as much as we can. So, next meeting, November 18th. Okay, thank you for that clarification. November 18th in the Christmas social. If you do have any ideas, please contact someone on the staff or go out to the website, focusunamerica.us, and engage us there. Thank you. Go see Thanh Boyer in the corner. You have a great rest of the day.